An average human weighs around 154 pounds. Even if you strapped wings to your arms and jumped with everything you had, you wouldn't lift off the ground. Your muscles simply aren't strong enough to fight gravity. And yet, a Boeing 747, weighing over 880,000 pounds, carrying fuel, cargo, and hundreds of passengers, can rise into the sky and stay there for hours. That difference is extreme. It's almost uncomfortable to think about, because nothing about it feels natural. So the real question isn't what changed, it's what makes the difference. To understand how an airplane flies, you first need to imagine that four invisible forces are pulling and pushing it at the same time. The first force is weight. This is gravity pulling the airplane down toward the ground. The heavier the airplane is, the stronger this pull becomes. A fully loaded airplane is being pulled down with an enormous force every second. The second force is lift. This is the force created by the wings that pushes the airplane upward. Without lift, the airplane would never leave the ground. The third force is thrust. This comes from the engines and pushes the airplane forward. You can imagine thrust like someone constantly pushing a toy car so it keeps moving. The fourth force is drag. This is the resistance from the air. As the airplane moves forward, the air pushes back against it, trying to slow it down, just like when you run fast and feel the wind hitting your face. An airplane only flies smoothly when these four forces are balanced. If lift equals weight, the airplane stays at the same height. If thrust equals drag, it keeps a steady speed. But the moment this balance changes, the motion changes too. If lift becomes greater than weight, the airplane climbs. If lift becomes smaller, it starts to descend. If thrust becomes greater than drag, it speeds up. If it becomes smaller, it slows down. So an airplane is not simply flying, it is constantly balancing these four forces every second. And out of all of them, lift is the most mysterious. Because unlike the others, lift is the only force we cannot see or easily feel, yet it is the one that makes flight possible. Most people have heard a simple explanation for how airplanes fly. Air moves faster over the top of the wing, pressure becomes lower, and the wing gets pulled upward. It sounds clean and easy to understand. But the problem is, this explanation is incomplete and in some ways misleading. It comes from an idea called the equal transit time theory. The idea says that air splitting at the front of the wing must meet again at the back at the same time. Because the top surface is longer, the air must move faster. But in reality, this is not true. Air traveling over the top actually reaches the back much earlier. The air does not need to meet up again. So what is really happening? First, the wing has a special shape called an airfoil. It is curved on top and flatter on the bottom. Second, the wing is slightly tilted upward as it moves through the air. This is called the angle of attack. Because of this shape and angle, the wing changes how air flows around it. From one point of view, the air above the wing moves faster, which lowers pressure. This is the Bernoulli explanation. From another point of view, the wing pushes air downward, and when air is pushed down, it pushes the wing up. This is Newton's third law. If there is one factor that controls everything in flight, it is speed. More specifically, how fast the airplane moves through the air. Here is the surprising part. Speed does not increase lift in a simple way. It appears in the lift equation as a square. That means if the airplane doubles its speed, lift does not double. It becomes 4 times greater. And if the speed drops, lift falls very quickly. This is why an airplane cannot just leave the ground whenever it wants. During takeoff, it must accelerate along the runway, faster and faster, until it reaches a critical speed. At that exact moment, lift becomes equal to weight, and the airplane rises. It does not jump. It does not force itself into the air. It simply reaches the point where the physics allow it to leave the ground. Pilots track this process using key speeds. V1 is the decision speed. After this point, takeoff must continue. VR is the rotation speed, when the pilot gently lifts the nose, and V2 is the minimum safe climb speed after takeoff. But here is the most important insight. There is no single command that makes the airplane fly. The engines push forward, the wings interact with the air, and when the conditions are right, the laws of physics take over. Every second, the wings are moving through the air, pushing it downward and redirecting its flow. The faster this happens, the more lift is created. And that raises a new question. If speed is so important, how can an airplane safely fly slowly when it needs to land? There is a problem every airplane must solve. The wing that works perfectly at high speed does not work well at low speed. In cruise, the airplane moves fast, so it can generate enough lift easily. But during takeoff and landing, speed is much lower, and lift drops quickly. So engineers found a way to cheat this problem. If you look at a wing before takeoff, you will see parts of it moving. These are called flaps and slats. They change the shape of the wing in real time. They do three important things. First, they increase the wing area. A larger wing can interact with more air. Second, they increase the curvature of the wing, also known as camber. This helps create stronger pressure differences. Third, they increase something called the lift coefficient, which means the wing becomes much more effective at generating lift. Slats have a special role. They open a small gap at the front of the wing, allowing faster, high-energy air to flow over the top surface. This keeps the airflow attached to the wing for longer and delays something dangerous called a stall. The result is powerful. Wing area can increase by around 20%, and total lift can nearly double at low speeds. This means an airplane does not rely on a single wing design. It uses a system that can transform depending on the situation. And that leads to another question. If airplanes can adapt like this, why do they choose to fly so high instead of staying closer to the ground? Once an airplane leaves the ground, it does not stay low for long. Instead, it climbs higher and higher, often reaching 35,000 to 40,000 feet. The reason is simple. At high altitude, the air is thinner. Thinner air creates less drag, which means the airplane can move more efficiently and burn less fuel. There is also less turbulence, making the flight smoother. But this creates a trade-off. Thinner air also means less lift. So to stay in the air, the airplane must fly faster or slightly increase its angle of attack. It is a constant adjustment to keep the balance. As the flight continues, something else changes. The airplane becomes lighter as it burns fuel. Because of this, pilots gradually move to higher altitudes in steps. This is called a step climb, and it improves efficiency even more. In the end, an airplane is not fighting gravity. It is working with it, carefully balancing every force with precision. What looks like magic is actually something far more impressive. Physics, perfectly controlled. And once you see it this way, every smooth flight, every steady cruise, and every gentle landing stops feeling ordinary and starts revealing a system quietly solving one of the most complex balancing problems humans have ever engineered.